Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, December 3rd, 2021. Budget reconciliation and why it may help pass the fair tax. To become law, the fair tax would need to pass by a majority vote in the House of Representatives, by a majority vote in the Senate, and then be signed by the President. However, passing legislation in the Senate often requires more than a simple majority of 51 senators in favor of a bill. In the Senate, it's not uncommon for debate on a bill to go on indefinitely, effectively preventing it from coming up for a vote. Now, this is the filibuster you often hear about in the news. Senate Rule 22 requires 60 votes to end a filibuster on a measure and bring it up for a vote. The official name for this action is cloture. Now, of course, if some senators wanted to change Rule 22, they would have to debate that issue, and other Senate rules require 67 votes to end debate on changing a Senate rule. Now, these rules, though, have not stopped the Senate from carving out exceptions. In 2013 and again in 2017, the Senate made exceptions that disallowed filibusters on nominations to executive branch offices and confirmation of federal judges. In those cases, a nominee needs just a simple majority of 51 votes, not 60. There is also an exception to the 60-vote cloture rule called budget reconciliation. In that case, all it takes is a simple majority, 51 votes, to end debate and bring a measure up for a vote. In today's equally divided Senate, if all 50 Democrats voted to end debate and all 50 Republicans voted to continue, Vice President Harris would cast the deciding vote to end debate and allow the bill to be brought up for a vote. So just what is budget reconciliation? The Congressional Research Service has prepared a report entitled The Budget Reconciliation Process, the Senate's Byrd Rule. This report explains that reconciliation is a process established under Section 310 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974. The purpose of reconciliation is to change substantive law so that revenue and mandatory spending levels are brought into line with budget resolution policies. Reconciliation has generally been used to reduce the deficit through spending reductions or revenue increases, or a combination of the two. Now, reconciliation is a two-step process. Under the first step, reconciliation instructions are included in the budget resolution, directing one or more committees in each House to develop legislation that changes spending or revenues, or both, by the amount specified in the budget resolution. Under the second step, the omnibus budget reconciliation measure is considered in the House and Senate under expedited procedures. For example, debate time in the Senate on a reconciliation measure is limited to 20 hours and amendments must be germane to the proposed bill. The process culminates with enactment of the measure, thus putting the policies of the budget resolution into effect. Reconciliation is an optional procedure, but it's been used 22 times since 1980. Because there were attempts to add provisions to the reconciliation bill that did not directly apply to budget resolution issues in 1985 and 1986, the Senate adopted the Byrd Rule, named after its principal sponsor, Senator Robert C. Byrd of West Virginia. This was a means of curbing these practices. The Byrd Rule contains 1. A provision in statute applying to initial Senate consideration of reconciliation measures, and 2. A Senate resolution extending application of portions of the statutory provision to conference reports and amendments between the two houses. Senator Byrd explained that the basic purpose of the amendment was to protect the effectiveness of the reconciliation process by excluding extraneous matter that often provoked controversy without adding deficit reduction efforts, and to preserve the deliberative character of the Senate by excluding from consideration under expedited procedures legislative matters not central to deficit reduction that should be debated under regular procedures. A senator opposed to the inclusion of extraneous matter in reconciliation legislation has two principal options for dealing with the issue. First, the senator may offer an amendment or a motion to recommit the measure with instructions that strike such provisions from the legislation. Second, under the Byrd Rule, a senator may raise a point of order against the extraneous matter. To overcome a point of order motion labeling a portion of the reconciliation bill as extraneous, 60 senators must agree. Extraneous matters are then required to be submitted in a new bill, which requires the normal Senate rules 60 votes to end debate. A provision is considered to be extraneous if it falls under one or more of the following 6 definitions. 1. It does not produce a change in outlays or revenues, or a change in the terms or conditions under which outlays are made or revenues are collected. 2. It produces an outlay increase or revenue decrease when the instructed committee is not in compliance with the instructions. 3. It is outside the jurisdiction of the committee that submitted the title or provision for inclusion in the reconciliation measure. 4. It produces a change in outlays or revenues which is merely incidental to the non-budgetary components of the provision. 5. It would increase the deficit for a fiscal year beyond the budget window covered by the reconciliation measure. Or 6. It recommends changes in Social Security. Now, the parliamentarian of the Senate is an advisor to the Senate. The parliamentarian advises on any questions dealing with the interpretation of the standing rules of the Senate. Elizabeth McDonough was appointed parliamentarian in 2012 by then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. 2 immigration bills were removed from the House bill because the parliamentarian advised that they were extraneous. A number of other proposals by members of the House were not included because it was clear that they were extraneous. Now let's look at the FAIRtax and budget reconciliation. Some opponents of the FAIRtax say that 218 members of the House may vote for the legislation. However, they cite the need to get 60 senators to agree to end debate on the measure in the Senate before it can be brought up for a vote. They believe that in our divided country, at least 41 senators will oppose ending debate, effectively killing the FAIRtax. Now, even if there are 41 senators or more who oppose the FAIRtax, the budget reconciliation process will allow the Senate to pass the FAIRtax with only 51 votes. Now, that's how the 2017 tax reform legislation was passed. Again, the purpose of reconciliation is to change substantive law so that revenue and mandatory spending levels are brought into line with budget resolution policies. Eliminating the income payroll tax system and replacing it with a FAIRtax will dramatically reduce evasion, which will bring in more revenue, but will also reduce federal expenses. By eliminating the IRS, the FAIRtax will save the government billions of dollars every year. This will bring into line revenue and mandatory spending levels and allow the budget to be balanced. In conclusion, if current trends hold, the Republicans should likely regain control of both the House and the Senate in the 2022 midterm elections. Now, while it's unlikely that President Biden would sign the FAIRtax legislation if Congress passed it, things could be different if the Republicans hold the House and Senate in the 2024 elections and a Republican president is inaugurated in January of 2025. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." The FAIRtax can make a dramatic impact on all of our lives for the good. We can take back control of our lives. Since we still have elections, we have the ability to elect federal representatives who will replace the complex income payroll tax system with the FAIRtax. We just need to keep pointing out the insanity of the complex income tax and the benefits of the FAIRtax to everyone. Our friends and neighbors who we need to vote with us for a sane system of taxation just need to be informed. So what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives and attend Zoom town hall meetings too, demanding that if they really want to allow Americans to take back control, the first step is to eliminate the income payroll tax system and enact the FAIRtax. The great 18th century Irish statesman Edmund Burke made a statement that applies in many ways. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. Take back control. Help us pass the FAIRtax. The IRS will be gone and we'll pay our taxes when we make purchases. We, not the ruling class and their minions in D.C., will decide how much federal tax we pay, and we'll know how much tax we are really paying because taxes will no longer be hidden from us. They will be clearly shown on every retail receipt. If you have friends who don't know about the FAIRtax, send them to FAIRtax.org. Have them watch the whiteboards under how it works, and if they agree, ask them to please join us. Then, contact your member of Congress and the President and demand that Congress pass the FAIRtax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.